prove we are strong. Only when darkness has fallen do we see where we belong. And whom is a child to the Father? Oh, trusting where doubting has been. Open your heart to the Savior. He's waiting there to come in. There is no shame in your weakness, neither regretting your past. Only rejoice now, sing praises. This is a love that will last. And whom is a child to the Father? Oh, trusting where doubting has been. Open your heart to the Savior. He's waiting there to
Good morning. The witness of Scripture this morning is taken from 1 Kings, chapter 19, verses 1 through 18, found on page 326 in the Pew Bible. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, "So may the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow." Then he was afraid. He got up and fled for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah. He left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree. He asked that he might die. "It is enough. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under the broom tree and fell asleep. Suddenly, an angel touched him and said to him, "Get up and eat." He looked, and there at his head was a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. He ate and drank and lay down again. The angel of the Lord came a second time, touched him, and said, "Get up and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." He got up and ate and drank. Then he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. At that place he came to a cave and spent the night there. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He answered, "I have been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away." He said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Now there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of sheer silence. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. Then there came a voice to him that said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He answered, "I have been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts. For the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away." Then the Lord said to him, "Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive, you shall anoint Hazael as king over Aram. Also, you shall anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king over Israel. And you shall anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel-Meholah, as prophet in your place. Whoever escapes from the sword of Hazael, Jehu shall kill. And whoever escapes from the sword of Jehu, Elijah shall kill. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." You have heard the ancient texts.
O Tod, O Tod, wie bist du? Wenn an dich gedenket ein Mensch, der gute Tage und gar noch hat und ohne Sorge lebt, und dem es wohlgeht in allen Dingen und noch voll essen mag. O Tod, O Tod, wie bitter,
We've talked over the last few weeks about the persistence of both disappointment and anger in our lives. But actually, the most consistent answer I get to the question, how are you these days, is this: I am exhausted. I feel tired all the time. I'm guessing a number of you can relate. It struck me at some point this past week that while the Scriptures reference rest, God rested on the seventh day. Sabbath rest remains for the people of God. While Scripture references rest, religion turns rest into religion. Have you noticed that? Into Sabbath keeping and ritual and liturgy, Sunday school and church, and once upon a time, who remembers, show of hands, training union, Sunday night church. Oh, yeah. And the rhythms of church have been vital to me. The regular intergenerational gatherings, the sharing of concerns and celebrations, focusing me beyond my own concerns and celebrations. The corporate elements of worship, reminder of community, reminder I am in this with others who care about me, whom I care about. I am not alone. The prayer that is assurance, the Scripture that is the wonderful big story, the countercultural dimension inherent and integral to the prayer on earth as it is in heaven, a way of being together in contrast to the priorities and the values and the foci of the week, the familiar comfort Cameron referenced, all that. But on the seventh day, God rested. And presumably, God did not take the day to worship God's self. God just rested, did nothing. Rest is the definition of that seventh day, not doing something else. And having finished the work, God then turned God's attention to the honey-do list in heaven. No. God rested. When do you rest? How do we honor the God-named priority of rest? Because getting the kids up and getting the kids out and getting everyone dressed and out the door, maybe breakfasted, maybe relying on the Welcome Center, and then maybe you're a Sunday school teacher or you're a worship leader. And yes, I believe there is energy in such service, but it's not rest. Yes, there is a restful dimension to community and to a different focus than the other days of the week, I would say, but it's not rest. And when we don't go to church, it's not like we rest then. We work in the garden, we take care of chores, we go to the store, we go to the kids' sports activities, we do actual work for work. On the seventh day, and as is often the case in the Bible, maybe less about the number, right, than what the number represents. On the seventh day, the perfect day, there was rest. With the work requirements of our culture and our own sense of value so connected to being busy, right, as Brene Brown suggests, with the stress of life in our culture these days, the violence, the selfishness, the profound inequities, with all the attention we give screens and social media and entertainment, rest is at a premium. We're not resting when we sit still but scroll or binge or worry. After the sixth day, after what was incomplete, completion involves rest, taking a break. Maybe getting outside at the time of the evening breeze. Maybe taking a nap. Maybe do you have favorite images of naps? I do, and they're seasonal. A summer nap, the windows are open and the curtains are billowing. You know, the white curtains, not the drapes, the sheer things, and they're blowing in, and you're drifting in and out with them. And in the winter, the windows are closed, you're under blankets, right? They're heavy, you're snuggling. Yeah. What do we say? Having a lazy afternoon? What a pejorative thing to say. Doesn't it sound wonderful? No schedule. No, I have to be here. No, I have to do that. I am a fan of some deep breaths during the day. I am a fan of a quick shut-eye. The other day, I stopped by the church to pick something up, and Judy's car was parked in the circular drive, and she had a camping chair, and she was seated in the middle of our front lawn, and she was just sitting there. And I thought, I should throw one of our camping chairs in the back of our car, and when I drive by a place that's just, I should stop, and I should get the chair. I should just sit there. Now, it turns out she wasn't just sitting there. She was counting cars, and if you want more details about that story, you can ask her. But in my misunderstanding of what she was doing, I thought it was brilliant. I am not saying don't come to church. I am saying within the rhythms of your days that importantly include church, when do you rest? It's rest that makes a rhythm perfect. The context for our scripture reading involves King Ahab of Israel, the northern kingdom, who married the Phoenician princess Jezebel, who institutionalized the blasphemous worship of Baal and Asherah, who desecrated God's altars and killed God's prophets. And Elijah called out these prophets of Baal and Asherah at Mount Carmel. You remember this story? Where there was an epic, it was high noon at Mount Carmel. It was a prophetic showdown at the Not Okay Corral. And Elijah defeated them, or God did through Elijah. And Elijah had them all killed, like up to 450 prophets of Baal killed, up to 400 prophets of Asherah killed. When Jezebel heard this, she reacted not well, angrily, and said basically, she sent word back to Elijah, basically, you think you're bad? I'm worse. And Elijah was afraid and ran for his life, which is a bit odd when you're following the flow of this story, right? Because he just had this tremendous, powerful, dramatic victory on top of the mountain. He ran, terrified. And here's what I've been thinking this past week. He was exhausted. Not so much the emotional letdown after a tremendous victory. That wasn't it. Not from what I would imagine would be the emotional toll of killing up to some 1,000 people. Maybe from the emotional toll of coming to grips with the fact that you started playing the game by someone else's rules. Because Elijah on top of Mount Carmel acts a whole lot more like Jezebel, right? Who had been desecrating the altars and killing the prophets of God. He was acting more like her. When I kill those prophets, how am I different from her? That sounds like an exhausting consideration to have to be processing. But what I have mulled over this past week has been the absolutely draining exhaustion of the thought, I just defeated everything you represent. And here you are again. Why am I facing this again? It's a good question, but it's also the truth that the AA community knows. It doesn't matter what just happened. All that matters is what you do now. There is an exhausting dimension to that. There is no conclusive, okay, that's done. There is a never-endingness. Now, it's also an let's see. It's also an always significantness. Yeah? Your choice in every moment matters. Every time you make it. So maybe it was confronted with this ruthless mirror image, or the image of what he was a ruthless image of. Maybe he was confronted with the significance not of a momentous victory, but of day-to-day persistent faithfulness. Exhausted, Elijah went one day's journey into the wilderness, where he found and sat under a solitary desert bush and said, I'm done. It's enough, or it is too much, or I've had enough. All translations. And he lay down under this bush and he fell asleep. Angel touched him, get up and eat. He looked, there was cake, hot stones, water, ate, drank. He lay back down, he went back to sleep. Angel had to wake him up again. All right, look, it's time to eat again. You got to eat or you won't be able to make this journey. He got up, ate, drank, then he went in the strength of that food. And though Scripture doesn't say it, it was also in the strength of that rest. He got there, he fell asleep. He was awakened. He ate. He fell asleep again. In the strength of that food and those naps, that rest, he went 40 days and 40. Remember, he could only do one day when he fled. Now he goes 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. At the place he came to a cave and he spent the night there. How do you hope when you're exhausted? You don't. You rest first. You take a break. You replenish hope with intentional rest. It's only after resting that we get to the more familiar part of the story. The wind, the earthquake, the fire, and finally the still small voice or the sheer silence. Which we're not going to talk about at all. Because that's not what we're thinking about today. Rich story, lots to think about. He was exhausted. He fell asleep. Twice he could go on. Any of you know the name Alex Pang? Alex Sujong Kim Pang or Pang? No? It was new to me too. He received his BA and PhD in History of Science from the University of Pennsylvania, so just up the... He studied corporate planning with Russell Ackoff and the Social System Sciences group at the Wharton School. He's a consultant, speaker, author who launched Strategy and Rest, a consulting firm, after working as a senior consultant at, get this name, Institute for the Future and Strategic Business Insights, two of Silicon Valley's most venerable think tanks, and future-oriented organizations. If you're future-oriented, you need to what? Rest. Some of his books include Rest, Why You Get More Done When You Work Less. Work Less, Do More, Designing the 4-Day Week. And Shorter, Redesign Your Work and Reclaim Your Time. This is the quote that I stumbled upon that made me look him up. Rest is not something that the world gives you. It's never been something you do when you've finished everything else. If you want rest, you have to take it. You have to resist the lure of busyness, make time for rest, and protect it from a world intent on stealing it. Not to take away from Alex Pang, but God knew that before he did. It's in the Bible. I've not read any of his books, so I don't know if he has guidelines, suggestions beyond the need to rest for how to rest. Because even if I imagine, I'm driving along, I see this little patch of grass surrounded by trees, by a little rippling stream that has rocks in it, so there's white water, there's sound, and I have my camping chair in the back of my car. I stop, I take out my chair, I put it in the grass, I sit. I'm imagining, right? I just pulled out a book or a notebook, and now I'm reading or working on something that I'm writing. And I love doing both of those things. Those are regenerative practices for me. And there's something restful to a different pace. Is that rest, though? Rest is our practical practice today, right? We've been combining thinking about hope with a practical rest. If you've been doing, if, you notice how I'm beginning this sentence? If you've been doing the homework, if you've been doing the practical practices that we've suggested in worship, then the one you get to do this week is nap. But no fair starting now. Remember I suggested that religion turns rest into religion? And then I was stuck not wanting to reject religion, right? Or not reject it entirely, which would be counterproductive. But also not wanting to devalue rest, right? So I celebrate the rhythms of the church, but I also understand the need for the appeal for rest within rhythm. In my own defense of church's rhythms, in addition to what I listed previously, the prayers, the community, the sense of comfort, I've often included the kind of people I have come to know because I have been in church. The best, most impressive people I know, I've said this before, right, are people of faith. Now, that's not to say that there are not wonderfully impressive people who are not Christians, who are not part of a faith community. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the ones I know, because I have been immersed in church life, they're all people of faith. But it's maybe also occasion to say that as many god-awful things as the church has represented through the years, and it has represented a number, it has also represented Jesus. And so there have always been people in churches of every theology. There have been people in churches of every theology, every worship style, every country, who try and live as Jesus and make a difference for good. Live like Jesus, who withdrew from the crowds, who sought out the more desolate landscapes. Hey, Peter, would you get my camping chair out of the backpack? Right? He retreated to the wilderness. He went out on the lake. He went across the lake to the region on the other side. He went up the mountain. He retreated to the land of Gentiles, to the land of Sidon and Tyre. He found time to pray, time and time again. And on the Sabbath, where did he go? To the synagogue. I had big trouble wrapping this sermon up. This is my last paragraph. I had a lot of trouble getting here, and I'm not happy with this last paragraph. It just kind of... Because I'm not sure, you see, in our rest-deprived culture, if we really know how to rest. I'm guessing, only guessing, mind you, that it does involve a change of pace. It does involve doing things other than what you most regularly do. I would suggest it does include the rhythms of church and faith, but that it also includes and involves times of doing nothing much at all, which is precisely what we are so bad at. So, practice. Nap some this week. We're in the snuggle, in the warm blanket phase of the year. But maybe also try sitting and breathing. You can call it meditation, but you don't have to. Not thinking. Have you heard this? How many of you have tried meditation, guided meditation? All right. So you know. Okay, good. If you've done that, you've probably heard this, right? The person saying, "Okay, if a thought comes into your mind, acknowledge it, and then let it go." And you think, "Yeah, that's a whole lot easier than it sounds." It's the trying. Sit. Don't think. Do not plan. Do not organize. No anticipating. No to-do lists. Rest. Maybe that's a start.